To recognize Armin and Marilyn Quicker of Reed's Dairy, who specifically designated $200,000 toward this oncology clinic. So thank you very much. This is just our latest example of the power of giving. A couple of years ago, it was the Sills Wing. Today it's the Oncology Clinic. In coming months, there will be the new emergency labs and et cetera, et cetera. Every single day throughout the hospital, medical miracles, both large and small, are being performed by the talented staff of BGH using equipment that is only available because it was paid for by the donors. This is an appropriate reminder for us all that the government does not pay for hospital equipment, donors do. Belleville General Hospital, Quinte Healthcare, is being transformed thanks to the people who understand that a donation to the hospital is an investment in improved health care. People who need health care at BGH are among the luckiest people in the world because donors provided state-of-the-art equipment to make their care possible. Today, we celebrate the opening of the new Oncology Clinic and the advancements in care it brings to the people who need its services. We now have the right people, equipment, and space. We can say that our Oncology Clinic is the best of its type. It's exciting because with the people we have, there's only one thing holding us back from building on that and being the best community hospital in Canada, and that is having the equipment and a few renovations to make it so. The recent hospital accreditation inspection proved that we are already among the best hospitals in the country.
The surgeons, the physician, our diagnostic imaging department to help our patients. So I'm grateful, and I see that from all of you, you're providing us a broader future for all of us, so thank you. I wish to present Dr. McIntosh. Dr. McIntosh is a man of action. He first opened the Oncology Clinic in Belleville in 1972. He saw a need and he wanted to help. Dr. McIntosh has been called quite appropriately the father of the Oncology Clinic. He's a kind and generous man, and I'm grateful that I came to join you in 1985. Doug?
I completed my training. I did 2 extra years of hematology fellowships, and I was inspired by my professor, Dr. Malcolm Brown, as a student and a resident at Queen's. His specialty of hematology was the only clinical discipline that dealt with a treatment of malignant disorders, chiefly blood diseases. Gradually, in the late 1960s, the clinical field of oncology developed and separated out. It used to be hematology oncology, but it separated out. In 1972, the BGH dental clinic space became available, and I was urged by one of my associates, namely Dr. Curry Grant. He said, "Why don't you start a clinic up over there?" And one of my patients, Ron Knight, said to me after a long drive back to Belleville from Toronto after receiving chemotherapy, "Is there any way I could get my treatment in Belleville?" And this was a stimulus to move ahead. Subsequently, Mr. Phil Ricard, CEO, BGH, the board, and the Department of Medicine approved the setup of the clinic. Ray Kroc, subsequent CEO, also gave us strong support. About that time, adjuvant chemotherapy came out, and I was aware of this, and the drugs they were using I was quite familiar with, and so therefore I contacted the major treatment centers in Kingston and Toronto to offer my support for these patients undergoing adjuvant chemotherapy. In addition, I contacted a fellow Queen's graduate, Dr. Peter McClure, head of Toronto Sick Children's Hospital, and as I had some pediatric experience with Dr. R.K. Smiley at the Ottawa General Hospital, this was before the time of CHEO. Subsequently, some pediatric cases were shared. Now, my original team was small but very dedicated, as is the larger team of today in the clinic. I was very fortunate to have Mrs. Donna Hallway as my clinic nurse. She was very stabilizing, positive, and dedicated. And she really, when things were rough, she just held the fort. I had two very dedicated women's auxiliary volunteers, Sylvia Buskard. Where are you, Sylvia?
She's over there hiding in the back.
Okay. And Ruth Weber. They were just great. When things were really stuck, they just hung in there, and that was really something. Our support group included Leo Fortin and his pharmacy. He was just great at setting up the chemotherapy and medications. Pauline Milligan was our nurse supervisor and the dietary staff. Now gradually, clinical support grew largely from KGH. Dr. Peter Galbraith and Dr. John Matthews invited me down to attend weekly meetings. And this was kind of a boost, because in this setting, everybody is a cardiologist or everything else, but not interested in blood diseases or cancer. So it was nice to get that refreshing experience once a week. And I understand that Roger still goes down once a week to Kingston. Now locally, Dr. Bruce Cronk was a great support. And he was our first white blood cell donor, using our newly acquired white cell filtration apparatus. That recipient of Dr. Cronk's donation is still a survivor today. As this was a 24-hour job, I didn't continue with too many white cell filtrations. This was given, we had 2 long-term survivors using white cell transfusions after intensive chemotherapy. I fondly remember Dr. Jim Loudon, who wrote a strong, successful letter of support in the face of a serious challenge against our work, advising us to stop. This challenge did not come from Kingston. After several years of operation, on a positive note, I vividly remember Mr. John Campbell, then Director of Finance, kindly with a smile advising me that BGH had set up a special fund for the clinic expenses. Now in the mid-1980s, there was a big turning point. I had talked to this new oncologist at KRCC, Kingston, several times, but had never met him. This was over a period of about a month. Dr. Lofters. So I was at a clinic, I never met him, but I was at a clinical meeting in Boston, hematology meeting in Boston, and I was looking for a seat. And I sat down. As I sat down, I noted the notebook next to me, the name, C. Lofters, Kingston, Ontario. And this meeting was vital to regenerate a slow BGH clinic, very slow. Subsequently, a very large number of the patients referred to Dr. Lofters from the Quinte area were referred back to the BGH clinic for continuing therapy. This was a major change. The work at the clinic increased dramatically. Under the guidance of Marilyn Pape, additional nurses were added: Jane Palmetier, Carol Hurd, Diane Fritz, Carol Patterson, Bev Shepard, Diane Smith, and Janet McConnell. You're here somewhere, I know. And now the late, again, further support, the late Dr. Elizabeth Scott arranged for a donation from the Canadian Cancer Society to the clinic for computers and other necessities in the amount of $40,000. I have fond memories of the association with the Greek community through my patient Mero Cerulis. That's where I learned to belly dance. We were having such a good time, and one of the guys was getting up on the table, and I said to Roger, I think I'll get up on the table. He says, I'm the one that will be getting up on the table. Wise advice. In 1993, illness forced me to leave the clinic, and again in 1994. Again, thanks to the KRCC, Dr. Andrew Padmos and Dr. Richard Gregg came up and maintained it until I could return. And they stayed until 1995. I must say the major clinical support for the clinic came from the KRCC and my associates at KGH. In 1995, we were very fortunate to have Dr. Roger Levesque join our medical staff. The clinic was then transferred to his care. Under his leadership, the multidisciplinary team increased, as did the number of patients. In 1997, the ER clinic of about 600 square feet, which I thought was great, was moved up to 24, with about 4,000 square feet. And that move was made possible by generous donations from our community. Today, this wonderful new clinic is made possible by very generous donations from our community. Thanks to Dr. Roger Levesque for his amazing contributions to cancer treatment and care at the Belleville General Hospital and Quinte area, a world-class oncologist and physician. Thanks also to Brian Smith, the board, and CEO Mary Claire Egberts for facilitating the development of this new oncology clinic. And God bless us, everyone.
Member of the auxiliary was telling me that when the clinic first opened, it was in a bit of a closet, and the auxiliary used to do many, many things. Sonia, I actually heard that the auxiliary used to help mix the chemotherapy drugs. Joanne, that's not going to be happening anymore, okay? So we appreciate all your support, but we're not going to let you in helping with that. So I want to say thanks to all of our speakers this evening, and thanks to all of you for coming to share this very wonderful moment with us. With all the support that is provided by everyone here, we have a great environment now for all of our patients undergoing chemotherapy or any kind of oncology service, and for those who are receiving their cancer care services here. And we couldn't be more pleased to be providing them with a better environment, as you see tonight. So I invite you to tour the facility, enjoy the refreshments. Our staff and volunteers will be pleased to show you around. And again, thank you very much for coming this evening.